Shalom, shalom, shalom. Welcome back, man. Shabbat shalom to everybody that's out there that may watch this. Peace and blessings to you and your family. First and foremost, we want to give all honor and glory to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We do so by way of His only begotten Son, who is an instrument of salvation for our nation, right? The Israelites, right? Today's lesson is entitled "They Will Starve If You Don't Do This." They will starve if you don't do this. Before we start, man, let's go ahead and play the blowing of the shofar so we can dispatch some angels, man. We can get the Most High's attention so he can be with us on this lesson as we help guide the people. He can help guide us in what he wants us to say to the people. Y'all let me know if y'all can hear this. Man, con. Let's see. I got a video and then we got some precepts to jump into. I think I should play the video first. And we'll get it out the way, and then we can just hone in on these verses and get straight into it. Let me see if I can share my screen. I couldn't really start it at the very beginning, so it's probably about like 2 seconds off, 2 seconds into it already. Try to play with it, get the timestamp right, man. You know, the internet wouldn't let me be great. Uh, but nonetheless, man, this is the video right here. And y'all let me know if y'all can hear what the sister is saying. I know the brother Azrael shared this earlier in the week. To another brother that was having some issues with his animal, right? But we're gonna dive into it today and see what we can get out of it, right? So before I hit play, I'm gonna read the title. It says, "Pay attention to how people treat animals." Pay attention to how people treat animals. She starts off by saying, um, "How somebody treats animals tells a lot about them," right? So here we go.
Animals tell you everything you need to know about them. I promise you. Because essentially, what you see is how they would treat something that is voiceless, something that also may have less knowledge than them, something that they have power over. It teaches you so much about a person's habits, how they view having power, whether they're a benevolent leader or a cruel one. It teaches you their emotional intelligence, their ability to relate to living things, and also their ability to value life. When people aren't valuing human life, it's hard for them to do the same for animal lives often. This is why you see when people grow up to be repeated offenders or murderers, they start with animals.
And somebody she's talking about that we all know is Jeffrey Dahmer, man. Before he went on his killing sprees and all that stuff, what did he start out with? He started out with squirrels and rabbits and stuff, man. Right? He was just getting ready, desensitizing himself. He was getting his true feelings out. And you know, the repercussions weren't really there from his father, but they really weren't there in the beginning when he used to bring home dead rabbits and all that stuff. They kind of just played it off like, hey, you know what I'm saying? Boys will be boys. It's a little weird, but I'd rather him do that than kill actual people. But what's in you is going to come out of you. And sometimes you start prematurely with animals or something small, like the sister is saying, right? Another thing I want to point out before we keep playing is that, man, this is something we say all the time, or something that I've said before, is that, hey, man, you want good practice in being a leader, and she knocked a few things on the head. You need practice with patience. You need practice with your emotional intelligence. You need practice with your kindness. You need practice with gentleness, right? Um, you need practice with any fruits of the spirit. Go ahead and start off by getting you a dog, man, or a pet. Um, it might not even be a dog or a cat. You might, if you don't think you're ready, man, start off with a fish. It takes some love, some tender love and care to take care of fish as well. You know what I'm saying? but these things can help train you up to be the person that not only that you want to be, but the person that the Most High wants you to be, right? And these things show you a lot about yourself, right? If you get a pet fish, and your laziness will show, right? Because if you're not on it, them fish will go belly up real fast. Next thing you know, you on your fourth fish, right? Now it's that you should be looking at yourself in the mirror like, dang, man, I need to get it together, man. I'm lazy. I'm careless. You know what I'm saying? It's the little things, right? It's the little things. It's one thing that I think I want to plan on starting with my own daughter, even though we do have a dog at the house, right? I think that he's a little bit too big for her to, you know, to embark on things on her own without assistance, even though she does help me feed him sometimes and wash him and whatnot. Uh, but I kind of want to start off with a fish, man, something that every morning she can wake up and she can feed and stuff like that and take care of, because these things breed good traits and good characteristics, especially for, you know, people of the book, right? I don't have this precept written down, but I'll paraphrase it. There's a reason why he said that husbandry is ordained, man. Husbandry doesn't just go into play with crops and vegetation, but also with animals as well, right? Go ahead, brother O.
Con, when you just brought that example up about getting an animal, it teaches patience. That's probably why the Lord had David starting off David in the field being a shepherd. So when he got to dealing with Saul, he had more patience to not, oh, I ain't gonna kill this man. I understand he got a spirit on him. So David dealing with animals before he became king could have helped him, with patience and understanding how to, deal with certain situations.
Come, man, that's a good point. We're gonna touch on David too. Make sure you bring that point up again though, because I like that point. I wanted to dive into something that you said. So remember that point when we go into David, and bring it back up again if you can. I'm gonna finish bringing this video out. It's not too much more on it.
Because animals are voiceless. Animals are often overlooked. Animals cannot advocate for themselves. Nobody is tracking down the life of an animal as much as they are humans. The only thing that stops certain people from being evil to humans is the backlash if they're found. So what do? They in turn do it to humans. I mean, to animals. And what you would do to an animal, you would do to a human, particularly children, because oftentimes they're in the same boat of not being able to advocate for themselves, not having a voice, being powerless. Um, just similar things. This is why people say having a dog is like having a child that never grows up. Some people don't want children to grow up. Some people don't like when children start having their own thoughts, their own voice, because they're no longer your animal, your pet, something you can keep and treat any way you want without it really being reflected, unless you're in front of a professional. And even then, a lot of the times when somebody is in front of a professional as a pet or as a child, it's at the hands of who's ultimately in power.
Right.
How?
And so some things she touched on is, having a dog is kind of like having children, right? And when you think about it, um, we're all children when it comes to this spiritually. I'm talking about like right now. We like to think that we're well studied and stuff like that, but if you think about it, we're all babes, right? We don't really know what's going on. We're just now coming back to our heritage. I don't care if you've been in the truth for 10, 15, 20 years. We're still babes. There's so much that we've been disassociated for, right? Even Christ himself says if we come to him again, we have to come as little children, man. And understanding that once we've progressed a little bit and we're in charge of other children, right? Now, first, understanding that you're still a child, but two, understanding that the people that's underneath you, man, they're children, right? And a lot of times what people don't realize is that they get frustrated with the people underneath them, not realizing that they're babes in spiritually. And so you let them affect you in ways that they shouldn't. When you see them and you see them acting up, when you see them, it could be anything. It could be your actual child. It could be your husband. It could be your wife. It could be somebody within your group, your congregation, your camp, right? When you see them acting up or you see them acting a certain way, right? Don't treat. I know they might physically look like an adult, right? But you got to have the patience to deal with them as you would deal with a child having a tantrum or a pet having a tantrum. You know what I'm saying? with tender, with love and care and patience, right? And it's how we should be treating, right, the sheep of the Most High. I entitled this video, They Will Starve If You Don't Do This. They is the sheep of the Most High, right? The lost sheep, right? His flock. Let's get into some scriptures really quick. Let me share my screen. Boom. And we'll read from top to bottom. This is the first one we're going to read is Proverbs 12 and 10. A lot of people don't know this scripture is in the Bible, man.
This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 12, verse 10. A righteous man regardeth the life of his beast, but the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel.
Right. A righteous man regardeth the life of his beast, right? These are wise words being spoken, man, because even back then they understood the parallel, the correlation between somebody treating their animals, right, or their beasts versus somebody that's treating them wrong, right? Typically, when you're treating your animals good, they treat you well. You know what I'm saying? Typically, when you're treating your actual kids well, they treat you well. You know, sometimes you got spoiled brats and whatnot, but for the most part, I know for animals, right, they're gonna treat you well if you treat them well. If you got a horse and you know he can be your best friend, you can be compassionate with him, and you know he might try to defend you, all of this stuff, right? Y'all remember Pegasus and Hercules? No folly, right? But he was Hercules's ace boon coon, you know what I'm saying? Like he was his right hand man, and there was a reason for that because Hercules treated him nice, right? But you also got people that will whip their horses uh overly, right, for no reason, man. You know what I'm saying? And those horses, typically, those when you got animals like that get constantly beat, constantly taken advantage of and whatnot, what happens the first sight of freedom? What do? They taken off out of there. Just like the slaves, man. If we want to talk about it, when we was in slavery and whatnot, we wasn't really getting treated right. This is gonna sound off, man, but we were beasts to them that had us in their hands, right? And they regarded not our lives, right? Um, and so how they treated us was the same way. We had slave rebellions, we had runaways, and all of this stuff, right? That's gonna happen in the mind of a beast as well, an actual beast, right? Now, when you read the Bible, there's a right and a wrong way to do it. We had runaway slaves during this time, but in the Bible, they have laws in place for a slave that they don't want to run away. That means that there's a way that you can have a servant or a slave, and you can treat him so good that he doesn't want to even leave your side, right? Now think about that in ways that as you wish, but it's just showing you that if you treat something good, typically good things will happen, right? But it says, but the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel, right? So you can notice a lot about a person. That's why I like reading Proverbs, because it highlights a lot of little things that can highlight things in people's lives, right? You can know a lot about a person by how they treat their beasts, right? How they treat even about how they treat their children, right? Um, let's go to John real quick. Let's set the stage for this lesson really fast. If that precept didn't. But we're going to go to John chapter 21 and verse 15. This is a brother. He's had special appearances on our channel before. Brother E-Man's one of his favorite verses, man. One of his favorite passages. Brother Aliyah, right? This is John 21 and 15. And we're going to read through 17.
John 21, 15. So when they had dined, Jesus saith to Simon Peter, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me more than these? He saith unto him, Yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. He saith unto him, Feed my lambs.
Right, man. He said, feed my lambs. That's a direct what's the name? Sometimes people grow up in the country, right? And when they grow up in the country, they have fathers and grandfathers, and they give you commandment like, bro, go out there and do these farm chores. they don't really give you an option whether or not you can or you can't. They just give you a strict commandment, and this is what Christ is doing. You know what I'm saying? We expressing that we love each other, this, that, and the third. Yeah, you love me. Go outside and take care of them animals, man, because I can't do it. You know what I'm saying? Um, that scene in Holes. You seen Holes, brother Obadiah? You said
Yeah, I
what?
see. It's been a little minute though.
Yeah, man.
It's a
That's like that's
long time. I don't know if
that's
I said and watched the whole thing, but I know of it.
so it's just like in Holes, man. You can't tell Christ, man. I'm tired, granddad. You know what I'm saying? Well, that's too darn bad. You know what I'm saying? That's what Christ's gonna say. A lot of people looking at the granddad like, man, he tripping. You know what I'm saying? Like, give that little girl a break. But nah, man, the work has to continue. And granddad's too old to do it. Not saying Christ is too old to do it, but what I'm saying is he's not here in the physical with us no more. So somebody got to do it. You know what I'm saying? It's verse 16.
He said to him again the second time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? He saith unto him, Yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. He saith unto him, Feed my sheep.
And he said it a second time, man. He asking Simon, do you love me? All right, then. If you love me, you say this is how you gonna show me, man. Right? This is a manipulation tactic, but this is a good manipulation tactic, right? But a lot of times in the world, you'll see this too. Like you join the gang and stuff. The leader might say, "Hey, man, you really mess with me or not, man? Then go blow that man's face off, or something like that, right?" But and people will actually do it to try to show they love, and all the Most High and through His Son is trying to tell us is that, and He's doing it in the right way. Like you saying you love me, well then show love to my people, show love to my children, right? You got something to say, brother? Oh, go ahead before I go, because
I was gonna say, man, yeah, and it's kind of funny because Peter denied Christ 3 times, so Christ made him say that you're gonna feed my sheep 3 times. Like, are you denying me 3 times? Now I want you to say you're gonna feed my sheep 3 times.
yeah, man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man. We gotta make sure you say say what you are, or say what you mean, man, and mean what you say. You know what I'm saying? And the beautiful thing, and we haven't got to the third time. We're about to get to the third time. But the beautiful thing about hearing something or making somebody say something 3 times is the fact that you can't run from it. You know what I'm saying? You can't say, "Oh, I didn't know," or whatever. You make somebody say something 3 times, bro. There's no excuse. That's a lot of times when we're on the street corner and y'all hear the Israelites and what the Lord say, and you keep repeating it, this, that, and the third. And so the person in front of you can't have no excuse because we said it 15 times, right? It's the same way. It's accountability, right? One thing I want to point out right now, I'll point it out after this last verse. Go ahead.
Verse 17, he saith unto him the third time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? Peter was grieved because he said unto him the third time, Lovest thou me? And he said unto him, Lord, thou knowest all things. Thou knowest that I love thee. Jesus said unto him, Feed my sheep.
Said, feed my sheep. One thing I think is funny here, man, is sometimes, you know, I kind of get irritated like Peter did when my wife be asking me those random questions like, "Do you love me?" You know what I'm saying? Like, and I know some people, some people otherwise be saying the same thing, and I'm like, "Yes, I love you." Are you sure you love me? Yes, and it's like I get like Peter, man. He kind of irritated, man. But again, man, that's that reassurance, that's that accountability. That was a little off topic, but one thing I wanted to point out as well is that he's telling Simon, man, he's telling him like, bro, you say you love me, feed my sheep. You know what I'm saying? If you love me, you would care about my belongings. You would care about my children. You would care about my flock, right? Um, just yesterday, I had a brother, man, the brother that cuts my hair. He told me a story about how his father passed and how uh his uncle came and got him the next day, and he told him that, hey, look, your dad said if anything ever happened to you, to to do X, Y, and Z, make sure you was straight. And I love your dad, so I'm gonna make sure you straight. And it's the same thing, right? With Christ. He said, if you love me, right? After I'm gone, make sure my children are straight. And just like somebody that, we see people in the world all the time that do it. Man, I love your dad so much, so I owe it to your dad to make sure you straight. We should feel the same way with Christ, man. We owe it to Christ to make sure his children are straight, man. What you need, I got you. Hey, man, you in the street? Well, get out the street. Come be with us. Come preach this word. We should be the same way, right?
I said, like, this is
Right.
kind of off topic too, but it says Peter was grieved. You know, when you on the street corner, and then it's that one brother that keep asking you, "What the Lord say?"
Yeah. You like, bro, I do not want
the
to read
brother,
that.
the
I don't
brother reading getting grieved because he done said it 7 times.
yeah. He's like, bro, can we move on? Now that's a fact. This First Peter 5 and verse 2. And it's funny, man. We can just see that type of stuff within the scriptures. Now, my thing is this, man. Who is the sheep, man? Christ said to feed to Peter, he said, "Feed my sheep 3 times," right? But it never really said who the sheep were, right? This is gonna give a little bit of context right here. It's First Peter 5 and 2.
It's the book of First Peter, chapter 5 and verse 2. It says, "Feed the flock of God which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, but but of a ready mind."
Right, man. So the flock he's talking about is the flock that is among you. He's not just talking about some random sheep across the way. He's talking about your brothers and sisters, man, the people of God, right? And he's saying that when you do it, keep oversight over them, right? Don't not by constraint, and we're gonna get into that too, not by constraint. And so the sister was saying that in the video, man. A lot of times people have pets and all this stuff, and you can see their controlling nature about them, right? Um, but willingly, right? Not for filthy lucre, but a ready mind, right? You gotta want to do these things, right? For the right reason, not because you can make money off of these folks, right? But of a ready mind, like ready to always be there for them, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, man. Especially when you people that dog fight, they have dogs and they put their dogs in fights and stuff like that. Like
Right, man. I
that's
got
really
after this next verse, man, I literally have written down in my notes. It says, "Don't be a Michael Vick," right? And we're gonna and we're gonna go into some verses explaining what I mean by that, right? It says, "Don't be a Michael Vick," right? Now, Michael Vick, he repented though. You know what I'm saying? He paid his dues. He went to prison and all. He served his time, right? But don't be how he used to be. I got one more verse before we get to the adverse of what a good shepherd should be, right? Let's go to Proverbs 27 really quick. 27, and we're gonna start at verse 23. We actually making pretty good time. Proverbs 27:23.
Proverbs chapter 27, verse 23. Be thou diligent to know the state of thy flocks, and look well to thy herds.
Right, man. What's the next verse say? Go ahead.
For riches are not forever, and doth the crown endure to every generation? To every generation.
Got you. Go ahead and read 23 one more time. I just want 23.
It said, be thou diligent to know the state of thy flocks, and look well to thy herds.
Right, man. Be diligent to know the state of thy flocks and look well to the herds. That's why we come on here every week, man. That's why brothers is diving into current events, man. Right? Because even though we got friends and babes in the truth that don't know what's going on, it's our job to let them know what's going on. Brother Azrael always talks about all the time, man. Man, we've been saying we was gonna go to war with Iran damn 6 years ago. You know what I'm saying? And that's what comes with being diligent in the state of your flocks. Because of you think about sheep and goats, they really don't even know the state that they're in. They don't know if danger is on the way for real. You know what I'm saying? But you're supposed to be diligent enough to look out for them, right? Not only that, you're supposed to look out, and know when you have somebody amongst your flock that is sick, right? When we go out to the street corners, right? Sometimes, we're led by the Spirit to call out to everybody, but sometimes we call out to certain people more than others, right? And sometimes we call out things that might be making them sick while we're in conversation with them, right? Because we're being diligent in knowing the state of them, right? You got to be diligent in knowing the state of those around you as well, right? Whether it's a brotherhood or what they call a sisterhood, you got to understand, like, man, something's off about that brother. You know what I'm saying? He's not like himself, man. I wonder what's going on. You got to be able to call it out, or rebuke or whatever. Have a conversation and get that brother back on track. Same thing with sisters, right? Be thou diligent to know the state of thy flocks, and look well to thy herds, right? You got to be diligent in doing all these things. You get an animal, bro. What? Even if you got a fish, man, you're fishing in the fish bowl. If you're a pet owner, bro, it should be something in the back of your mind that always say, "Let me go walk by this fish bowl real quick," just randomly throughout the day. You know what I'm saying? Randomly throughout the day. I ain't gonna lie. You can ask my wife. I'll walk to my back door just to look out, just to make sure my dog is breathing. He's back there, first of all. You know what I'm saying? He didn't get out. Especially when it gets too quiet. As things get too quiet, he start to warn it. Hey, hold up now. But a good shepherd, man, a good keeper is going to be diligent in knowing the state of his flock and looking well to their beasts, or to their people, right?
Yeah, because like it's saying, man, a sheep and goats, man, they're docile, right? They don't know what's going on. Like the brother at Danal said, you'll look out there and you and your intelligence, you'll be like, that looks off. That's not no sheep. That's not no goat. What is that in the pen? They'll just be eating grass like it's another goat or another sheep. And you got to be the one to go in there and get it out, or to scare it away, because they don't know. No, they think it's a fellow sheep or a fellow lamb, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because that's why it says, beware, there's wolves in sheep clothing, right? That wolf, he may, or that fox or that coyote, he may know how to get under that fence and pretend to be like one of them to get up close up on it, right? I was watching another farming video, and they were saying, yeah, one thing you got to worry about with chicken coops is foxes, possums, and stuff like that. He said, because the chickens, man, the chickens are so dumb. The possums and the foxes will sneak into the chicken coop, and the chickens won't run away from it. He said it's funny because the chickens will run away from humans. It's hard for us to catch them, but let a fox or a possum get in there. I mean, they'll walk straight up to them and just eat the chicken, because the chicken don't see it as a predator for whatever reason. So, we got to look well to our herds, man, and watch out for these dumb animals, so to speak, or ignorant animals, so to speak, right? And we know that a lot of our nation, a lot of our people, a lot of the flock are ignorant and they're lost.
Right, man. Right. So now let's go to this portion that I got entitled "Don't Be a Michael Vick," right? What does a Michael Vick spiritually look like, right? When you treat your animals bad, it says a lot about you. This is Ezekiel 34:2.
And Chicken George. Ezekiel 34:2. Son of man, prophesy against the shepherds of Israel. Prophesy and say unto them, thus saith the Lord God unto the shepherds, woe be to the shepherds of Israel that do feed themselves. Should not the shepherds feed the flocks?
Right, man. It's a no-brainer, man. Nobody come back, you're like, bro, y'all, why y'all eating their food? This is for them, right? Now, if you guys know us, man, we prefer cowboy culture, man. And one thing they say about in cowboy culture, right? When you wake up, who eats last? The cowboy eats last. You wake up, your animals. I think there's a saying, man. It says something like, you feed what feeds you first, and you feed after, or something like that, right? But you wake up and you feed that which feeds you, and then you feed yourself. right? And that's when I heard that, man. When I heard that, I kind of modeled my life after that too, man. Like even when I don't work at the dairy goat barn anymore, but when I worked at the dairy goat barn, that's one thing I made sure. That's one reason why I got to work on time. You know what I'm saying? Is because I wanted to make sure I stuck to that principle and I make sure all the goats was fed before I put anything in my stomach. That's one reason that got me to work by 7:45, 8 o'clock every morning. You know what I'm saying? Because if you know, and we talk about all the time, if you know where we work, man, there's really no pressure to get to work on time, right? But that's one of the things that kept me honest was knowing that I had to feed these animals before I could eat, right? Because I can go and get me something to eat whenever I want to. These animals, though, I don't know how hungry they are or how not hungry they are, but I know they can't go out and get their own food, especially the ones we have in the pens. So I got to go feed them first before I can feed myself, right?
Salakia too, and I've been doing a bad job of it lately, but I used to do it very well. Is taking your dog out to use the bathroom before you use the bathroom.
Yep.
The first thing you do when you get up in the morning, a lot of times you got to go take a leak. You don't think them animals got to take leaks, bro? They can't go and do it themselves, and they're trained to not do it in the confines of the living spaces that they're in. So I used to tell myself, I don't care how messed up my stomach is. I don't care how bad I got to urinate. I'm going to let my animal go first. And that way, that's taken care of. And then I'll handle myself. And it's a good reminder so you don't forget them, right? Because you can easily forget them. You can forget about the people, right? It's all a metaphor about the people. But you can forget about your animal just by saying, yeah, I'm going to do it later. And you go ahead, you relieve yourself, you feed yourself. Before you know it, it's in the middle of the day and that animal never left outside. Like he never left the cage, right? And so by the time you go, they might have either made a mess in their living space already, and you got to clean that mess up, or you open the door and they just sprint out and they just gotta, they just gotta go to town, go to work, and handle their business. But these things you put in place so that you don't forget the people, so that you don't mistreat them, so that you make sure that you're keeping them nourished and protected.
Right. And that comes with a great deal of responsibility. And a lot of times the people that you're over will respect you more than you naturally respect them. Like the brothers were just saying, that animal is showing massive respect to you by not making a mess in his kennel or his cage, right? And he's doing that and trusting that you would let him out to use the bathroom because it's a give and take relationship. You know what I'm saying? Now, like the brother said, you forget about that animal from time to time. It gets to the point where that animal feels disrespected and he has lack of trust in you. And now he's going in his kennel again, right? Because I don't trust this nigga gonna take me out. You know what I'm saying? Same thing for the people though, right? We like to make sure that we go out every single week, right? Touching our bases. We like to make sure we get on these lives what we set out to do every single week, man. Because we don't want anybody to be like, man, I don't trust them boys. They say they gonna do this, but they be lacking, they be slacking, right? I know sometimes, I even look at camps certain a little off and weird, man. There's been times where we got multiple camp spots, right? We go back and forth from Valdosta to Macon, right? But there got some camps that just stay in one location, right? And when you pull on them when they're supposed to be out there and they not out there, it kind of, subconsciously, naturally, you thinking like, "Dang, them brothers tripping, man." It's like you your faith in them dwindles a little bit, you know. And it's the same thing with anybody naturally. That's why you got to be disciplined and consistent when taking care of the sheep, right? They got to know that you're dependent. They can depend on you. If not, they're gonna do their own thing. And 9 times out of 10, like the brother Azrael was saying, they're so docile. If they do their own thing, it's probably gonna be detrimental to them, right? Let's go to the book of Jeremiah, Jeremiah 10 and 21. We actually making really good time though, man. Jeremiah 10 and 21.
Jeremiah chapter 10 and verse 21. For the pastors are become brutish and have not sought the Lord. Therefore they shall not prosper, and all their flocks shall be scattered.
Right? The pastors are brutish, man. Right? We have brutish um leaders. We all know leaders that, they overly micromanage, man. They're a hard butt or whatever, they're abusive. They have no regard for the people that's under them. I was just talking to my wife about a property manager that me and Azrael used to deal with, and how she barks orders and she expects people to get it done, but she doesn't know the work that it takes to get it done, right? Because she's never done any hard work before in her life. She's never laid down carpet or painted before or anything like that. She just thinks that with a snap of a finger, it should be done in 2 hours, right? And if it's not done in 2 hours, she's saying, "Do you even know how to do?" She's disrespecting you. You even know how to do your job? I might need to find somebody else, right? Um, and those type of leaders, man, what do? They scatter the people, right? Just like a property manager that acts like that, she will scatter her contractors. Man, I don't got to deal with this, man. I'm out. I'll find somebody else to work for. I'll go find another apartment complex, right? And then you wondering why everybody keeps leaving and this, that, and the third. It's because of the way you're leading. A lot of people don't take this a step back to look at themselves in the mirror to think maybe it's not the people, maybe it's you, maybe it's how you treat them, maybe it's how you're leading them, right? So just think about that, right? I want to get a few examples in really quick before we conclude, of some people that started off as shepherds, right? Um, let's go to the book of Exodus really quick. We're gonna go to 3:1, right? Exodus 3:1.
Exodus chapter 3 and verse 1. Now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the backside of the desert and came to the mountain of God, even to Horeb.
Red, right? Now Moses, we all know Moses, aka the first king of Israel by technicality, right? We know Moses. He started off as a what? A shepherd, right?
Shepherd.
Keeping the flock. Not only keeping a flock that wasn't even his, that wasn't even didn't belong to his people, right? This is symbolic, man, because we're keeping a flock that's not ours, right? That's what
That's
we're
true.
doing, right? And when you look at Moses, that's he had to now he struggled at times, man, because our people are just that boneheaded, that stiff necked. But he didn't realize this whole time keeping this flock in Midian was preparing him to keep the Lord's flock in the wilderness. He didn't know that, right? Where he kept the flock and where did he lead them to? Led the flock to what? The backside of the desert. He didn't realize that this was foreshadowing him leading God's people into the wilderness, bro. Right? He didn't know that, but he started off as a shepherd, taking care of the flock. Why? Because it was building him up. It was giving him the characteristics that he needed, and it also was probably showing him things that he needed to work on. Right? Let's go to First Samuel. You remember that point that you brought out?
For me,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it was by David, right? It was by David.
Yeah.
Oh,
Let-
the Lord had him. The Lord had David being a shepherd to prepare him for Saul. Yeah, he
Okay.
had
Yeah.
him basically like dealing with
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
animals and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah,
Gotcha,
kind of.
gotcha, gotcha. All praise the Lord brought it back to your memory.
Yeah. You almost slipped my mind. I had to catch it. It was in the lead.
It is First Samuel 16:11, man.
And Samuel said unto Jesse, Are here all thy children? And he said, There remaineth yet the youngest, and behold, he keepeth the sheep. And Samuel said unto Jesse, Send and fetch him, for we will not sit down till he come hither.
Right, man. So David, he was the youngest and he took care of the flock before he became king, before he became the one that killed tens of thousands, right? Before he slayed Goliath, man, right? He was taking care of the sheep and doing it on a what? A minor level. Matter of fact, we'll read that. Doing all this on a minor level. Um, 1 Samuel 17 and verse 34. Right? Go ahead.
1 Samuel 17 and 34. And David said unto Saul, thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out the flock.
Right?
Verse 35. And I went out after him and smote him and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard and smote him and slew him.
Right, man. So, again, taking care of beasts or sheep or flock or animals or just in general, it will prepare you for bigger things and bigger occasions, man. People think it's your first time slaying a giant. They don't even know that you did this in your 9 to 5, right? You done killed the bear and a lion before. People didn't see that, right? Now everybody saw you kill Goliath. They think it's your first time. Like, how did you do this? Like it was something supernatural, but you've been doing this all along. This ain't nothing new to you, right? And that's why one of the things I like to encourage people to do is go get you an animal, man, because a lot of those leadership qualities and characteristics you will build behind closed doors. When people actually notice it, they think that you just stumbled across these characteristics when all along you've been building them up all along, right? Go ahead, brother O.
Yeah, man. If you killed a lion or a bear, a man is nothing to you at that point. You don't grab the lion by his beard and slew him. That means he got close and personal to
Right,
this lion. He didn't just kill him from a distance and shoot him with a bow and arrow. He got close enough to grab his beard and to slay him. So to David, Goliath was nothing. That was like a regular
right,
day to him.
right, man. You telling me I got close and personal with a lion and I'm gonna be afraid of a man? Come on now.
Yeah, the phrase uh you wasn't with me shooting in the gym. You know that phrase? It applies just like the brother Danal said. Now I didn't kill no animals, but for example, like yesterday when I was running with my dog, and I've got to the point to where I can run with my dog without a leash. And I ran past this lady, and we were waiting at the stop sign for cars to stop going, right? And my dog was sitting there patiently. She came up to me, she said, how in the world did you get your dog to do this without a leash? And I told her, I said, it's repetition. I said it didn't always look like this, but over time she gets the memo now. Over time she got with the program. Over time she was able to be led by me, right? But it seems amazing when you see the end product, but you wasn't there when I was doing the small things, when I was getting pissed off. You wasn't there when I was doing the correction. You wasn't there when I was training. And so now it just looks like it was easy and it's amazing. So when I tell you repetition, you think that's easy. But no, behind the scenes, it led you up to the point to where you can amaze people or leave people in awe. But you got to put that work in behind the scenes so that you'll be ready for those moments.
Come on, man. And people don't see that the ugly side of it. People don't see where you're building trust. People don't see where you're building your characteristics, your patience, man. Learning how to lead, your emotional intelligence. Your dog is picking up intricacies about you, but along the way, you're picking up intricacies about your dog, right? Times where you used to get mad, like, man, come on. Now you can look at her and tell, oh, she's not trying to be a disobedient. She just got to go to the bathroom. Let me stop real quick. Let her go to the bathroom real quick, and then we can move on. Certain things like that, you're trying to figure each other out, right? But that comes with building those characteristics as a leader of dealing with your beast. That's why in the Bible it's clearly shown that there's a direct correlation, right? Here's one of the direct correlations right here. This is Amos 7 and 14. We're going to read 14 and 15. Thanks on brother O.
Amos chapter 7 verse 14. Then answered Amos and said to Amaziah, I was no prophet, neither was I a prophet's son, but I was a herdman and gatherer of sycamore fruit.
Right. Amos was saying, man, I was a herdman, man. and a gatherer, right? I was a shepherd and I was a husbandman, right? I was a herdman, man. I wasn't no prophet, man. I didn't want to be this when I grew up. But what? Verse 15.
Verse 15. And the Lord took me as I followed the flock. And the Lord said unto me, go prophesy unto my people Israel.
Right, man. A lot of times you don't know, man. The Most High is putting you over that beast so he can use you, right? A lot of times he can't just, he can't, the Most High is not going to come off his throne, come down here and put you in a boot camp. What he's going to do is use his creation to train you up, right? He took him from amongst the shepherd, from being a shepherd, right? Shepherding sheep to now shepherding his people, right? When he felt like he was ready. But the O said something about maybe 3 or 4 videos ago, and he was saying like, sometimes the Most High, you think that, oh, it was our last video for unleavened bread. It was our clothing for unleavened bread. He said, sometimes I think it was, I might be wrong, but I think Brother Obadiah, he said, sometimes the Most High doesn't give us things, right, because we're not ready for it yet. A lot of times we're going through things because he has us in his own training camp, right, and we can't see that, but when it's time, he'll do just like Amos. And what he said, and the Lord took me as I followed the flock, and the Lord said unto me, go prophesy unto my people. He said, all right, man, now it's time for you to level up, right? But sometimes we got to be patient to get there, right? Now, in conclusion, we're going to see some good characteristics we should have as shepherds of his people, as leaders, right? I'm gonna start off with First Peter really quick, and then we only got like 4 more precepts, man. Let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 precepts. First Peter 5 and 3. Brother Azrael, and I mentioned this earlier, but you can read it again.
Khan 5 and 3. Neither as being lords over God's heritage, but being ensamples to the flock.
Right, ensamples or examples, right? Neither being Lord. You're not. A lot of people get it twisted, man. We get leadership positions and whatnot, and we think that there are people, man. Right, like Moses when he hit the rock, right? He thought that those are his people and he was doing this, right? But no, you're just there to be a guide, man. It's not. It says over God's heritage. This ain't that. These people aren't your heritage. These are God's heritage. You're just in charge to be an example, to be a representation of God to these people, so they know how to act. That's how the same way the nation of Israel was supposed to be to the world, right? Just like we're supposed to treat those in our flock, right? We're supposed to be treating the Gentiles like this too, like tender love and delicate. That's why it says, if with anything that lies within you, man, treat all men with peace, right? Because we're supposed to be examples to them, right? We're supposed to give them the good representation of our God, right? Especially if they want to come and do the right thing. Go ahead, brother O.
Yeah, and some people get caught up, like the brother was saying, they think it's their heritage. That's why they start getting excited when, or they start counting numbers. I got this amount of people in my congregation, right? I got a building over here in this country, a building over here in this city with all these people, because they start thinking that it's their heritage instead of the Lord's.
Right. We talked about this with a brother. He's in another camp, well, congregation, I guess they call it, right? And we was just talking about how, it's getting past the brother's time. He's getting older. He's making more mistakes. He needs to pass the torch down to his second in command, right? But a lot of times people won't pass the torch down to the second command because they felt like the congregation is theirs. They built it, this, that, and the third, not realizing it's not your congregation, brother. It's not your heritage, right? And sometimes the best thing you can do for your congregation, for your flock, is to pass the torch so that you don't misstep, so that it can still be progressed with that same fervency that you had when you were younger, right? When you were sharp, right? And sometimes pride will get in the way of that, of knowing when it's time to pass the torch or move aside, right? Um, let's go to our first characteristic that I got down here is serving, right? Serving. Let's go to Matthew 23 and 11. It's a classic scripture, man. You know I like my classics. Go ahead.
God, it's the book of Matthew, chapter 23, and verse 11. And it reads, it says, "But he that is greatest among you shall be your servant."
Right. He that is greatest among you shall be your servant, man. That's why a lot of people get twisted. Right. When you have a dog, when you have a cat, when you have a fish, whether you want to believe, you're a servant. Why are you the servant? You're the servant by default because they cannot do anything for themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like you're giving them their food. Just like you were to go to a restaurant and they bring you your food, they're serving you. You're the servant for that dog, right? You let them out. You bring them back in, right? You wash them off, right? You brush them. You clean their tank, right? They can't do this stuff. You're doing it and you're serving them by doing it. The biggest among you is the servant, right? The sheep. When it gets too hot and you're supposed to shear the wool off so they don't burn up, they can't do it. You got to do it, right? If they get a thorn in their foot or something like that, you got to take it out. They get sick, you got to take care of them. You're the biggest servant to the sheep. Same way to the people of God. You're supposed to be the biggest servant. Go ahead, brother O.
Two things, right? So the first one, like, yeah, if you just say you got like a construction business, right, and you do some work for somebody, you become a servant because you got to do exactly how they want you to do. If
Right,
you building them a fence or if you painting their house, you become a servant. And you got to do it exactly how they say do it.
right.
Even though you're a millionaire, you still got to become a servant and do how they say do it.
And
And
have
even
customer service.
yeah, and have customer service, man. And I think the greatest example we've seen of this in the scriptures is Christ when he washed his disciple feet.
Right.
He became a servant, to his apostles and washed their feet. So come
Con, man. Con. Moving along, man. I got three more scriptures, man. What's the next character trait that we should learn while taking care of their of God's sheep? Acts 8 and 31.
So on you, O.
Acts 8 and 31. And he said, "How can I, except some man should guide me?"
I'm
And
gonna
he
read it.
desired.
I'm gonna read this first. Go ahead. Verse 30. I'm sorry.
Verse 30. And Philip ran thither to him and heard him read the prophet Isaiah and said, "Understandest thou what thou readest?" And he said, "How can I, except some man should guide me?" And he desired Philip that he would come up and sit with him.
Right. It's our job, man, to guide the children of God, man, especially the ones that are lost, that are babes spiritually. That's why we go out on the street corner and have these conversations, man. That's why we might have conversations at our job and stuff like that. But you got to understand the difference between guiding somebody and controlling somebody, right? Controlling looks like, hey, man, uh, you start upholding traditions, right? You can only eat with us. You can't eat with them. It's crazy is that this was happening in the Bible where they were saying you can't eat with them, you can only eat with us. And now it's going on today as well. Just because they're not in our congregation, you can't fellowship with them, right? It's the same thing. That's a part of being controlling, right? Another thing of being controlling is uh not being able not having your congregation or your flock to ask you questions and stuff. And then when they do, it's like, hey man, you can believe what you want to, but you can do it outside of this camp, right? Our job is to help guide people. It's not to control them, right? Still respecting them. You know what I'm saying? Like same thing with your animals. Our job is to guide our animals, but not to necessarily control their every movement, right? A dog is still going to be a dog, right? I don't want to control him so much that he doesn't even know he's a dog. You know what I'm saying? I still want him to do dog things, you know? And it's the same thing for the children of God. So you want to be able to guide them, but not in a controlling manner, right? The next trait I got here is
Yeah, you know, some people get a dog and Asalakia, brother Isaiah has some.
go
You
ahead.
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
You go ahead. You can go ahead.
Oh,
Nah, you can go ahead.
somebody go.
I was going to just add that, it's just like, man, as a coach, uh, I always refer to that because, like I say, it applies to life so much in the Bible, right? So I'm referring to is like yesterday, man, we had a scrimmage, and I'm not gonna lie, that was probably one of the worst that was probably the worst we looked all season. So the players after the scrimmage over with, they coming up to me saying, uh, man, we messed up, coach. I had one player doing um like running and stuff after practice after the scrimmage, but it had nothing to do with what happened during the scrimmage. It was at request of his father because his father said, he needs to be disciplined because he had woke up late for school on Friday morning, and he said he wants him to understand that, you got to be a student athlete, you know what I'm saying, if you want to be an athlete. But why am I mentioning that when it's talking about taking care of the sheep, when it talks about this lesson? One, because like the brother said, controlling every move. Yesterday I told the players, man, we practice for a reason. Like, I tell y'all things uh that you need to know so that way you can understand the game better and it can make you a better player. But sometimes when you make mistakes, it's not for me to sit up here and come down on you, you know what I'm saying, and force you to do like workouts or stuff because again, it's a part of knowing, it's a part of the learning process. And sometimes, when it comes to players, you got to allow players to make mistakes. You got to allow them to do their own thing sometimes so that way they can know how to adjust and adapt, especially if the mistake was costly. It's the same thing with animals. Like the brother was saying, you got to let animals be animals sometimes. You got to let them go and sniff around the tree sometimes, not trying to snatch a bat. You know what I'm saying? Because why? It just helps them use their instincts that the Lord gave them. It helps train them up in using their instincts, using their nose, trusting their smell. Think about if you got a dog and every time you walk your dog, every time the dog just wants to take a little sniff, you just jerking it and jerking it and jerking it, right? Eventually, the dog is not going to feel like, well, I can't use my nose because every time I use my nose, sometimes I just get pulled back, and they think it's a bad thing. It's the same type of reference that the brothers made earlier with um, using the bathroom in the kennel. You don't let them out the kennel enough, they're not going to trust you. So then they're going to start going back in the kennel, and it's going to make you upset. So as a coach, in relating it to the lesson, that's why sometimes, I let my players call their own plays offensively and defensively sometimes. And I know sometimes to the parents it can look out of whack because I'm letting 14-year-olds pretty much run the game, but I do that by way of helping them develop their confidence, helping them develop instincts and trusting, you know, allowing them to develop their trust. That's I think what we're supposed to do as people, when it comes to taking care of the sheep is we don't have to dictate every little thing they do. Sometimes it's best to let people do them. And then when it's necessary, it's an opportunity to, then you can come in and give your correction. You can come in and kind of, delegate how things are. So like,
Gone, man. No,
Come
you
on, man.
you gone. I was gonna say to that point of coaching, man. You can, as a coach, you can lead your players to the point where you're not no more guiding them, but you're controlling them. That's where you get players that are scared to play the game because of one mistake they're coming out, right? And then when you get to that point and you're scared to play the game, now you're moving robotic. Now you don't know when to break when to break fundamentals for the right reasons, right? And you don't play with no practicality or wherewithal, and you're playing scared. That comes because your leader is now controlling, and he's not just guiding you. A good coach should guide you in the right direction, but not control you from your physical abilities that can help the team out, right? You know what I'm saying? You playing defense, and every time you do this every time you do anything on defense, you hear your coach screaming at you, or you might get pulled out the game. You just gonna be, standing there like a cone after a while, right? And that's not gonna do any good either, right? And so it's the same way for coaching as well. You want to be able to lead and not control your players so they can play to their best ability and play with confidence as well. Same thing for being in the spirit, right? You want somebody to be in this truth out of confidence of them knowing what they should, that this is the truth, and the confidence of them being able to defend it, and the confidence of them being able to act out everything that's in the scriptures, right? Not just because they're afraid to get kicked out of the congregation or whatever like that, right? That's how you get a lot of people that leave the truth in general. You know what I'm saying? Or they can't expound on stuff that's in their mind or revelations that they come through. Then they start going back to the Christian church, right?
Yeah.
So
And
go ahead.
but yeah, am I breaking up?
No, I don't think so.
Am I breaking up?
No,
I think I'm breaking up. Let me see.
not on our end. Well,
Now
you
he
are.
is.
I don't think he can hear us.
Yeah, he probably
Am I
need
breaking up?
He can hear you again. You good?
Talk to a robot.
Good. You good?
Am I
I'm good
breaking
now?
up?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
good.
I'm good.
Yes,
Am I
Yeah.
good?
Yeah.
bro.
All right. Well, y'all moving in slow motion, so I'm gonna just talk. But yeah, man, when it comes to leadership, a lot of times leaders want to control, because when you're a leader, you have a lot of responsibility on your shoulders. So, like the brother Danal said, that control factor sometimes gets in the way, even as a parent, right? Even as a parent, you may have, for example, I got sons, right? You can lead them and tell them what to do and what not to do, but at the end of the day, you gotta, like the brother Isaiah and Danal was saying, you gotta let them be them. You gotta let them be kids. You know what I'm saying? I can only tell you to stop playing with that ant pile enough. You gonna have to learn, like I learned when I was a kid. Them ants bite and it itch, and I know now as a grown adult, I'm not messing with no ant pile. But if I shelter you from that, from the time that you're a little kid and you never experienced that, you will never understand. You won't have the knowledge that I have, right? A lot of times I was talking to my wife about taking them to this daycare while I go to the gym, but my youngest son, he's kind of feisty. I don't want him to hit some other kid. But the only way he'll learn not to hit some other kid is if he hits some kid and he get corrected for it. Like, we got to stop trying to control and lead and learn to trust, right? So it's literally like the scripture said, it's guiding them, it's not controlling them. And the last point I was going to make is, like the Danal was talking about, owning an animal and not letting that animal be an animal. A lot of people, they get these dogs and they want to treat the dogs like humans. The dog, you got the dog in the house, the dog trying to clean itself, lick its groin, and you like, nah, don't do that. That's a dog. That's what the dog on the floor rolling around. Nah, you're gonna get hair all over my carpet. Stop doing that. You put him in the cage because you mad. That's what a dog do. The dog slobbering. That's what a dog. What you want the dog to do? You can't control that dog and not make him a dog no more and make him a human. Go meet you a man or a wife and get you a baby. But that's a dog. So you have to learn how to guide and not control.
Right, man. You talk about the licking the growing part, and that's the mechanism that the Most High gave to animals to clean themselves, man. Right? It might seem nasty to us, but that's how animals clean themselves. You know what I'm saying? And DMX said one thing, man, in his song. He said, "Man, give a dog a bone, let a dog roam, and he'll find his way home." Right? Now, if you're leading somebody by being controlling, right? The first sight of light to that dog, he ain't coming back, right? But if you guiding a dog and you let him, be a dog, and you show mutual respect, he knows where home is. And it goes into the story of what? The prodigal son. The father of the prodigal son, he wasn't controlling, he guided his son, and he acted on the scriptures to where what? He brought up his child in the way he should go, and then when he got older, he didn't depart, or even when he did, he came back to where he knew what was right.
Hey, and I want to just add one more thing too, bro. Like Azrael was just going into, man, man, it's like we hate when dogs, and even going back to the example you brought out earlier, Danal, children, man, when children do the little things that they do. But like I said, just relating it back to just being a coach, man, because coaching has like biblical principles to a T, man. It kind of helps me in my patience with my children, and it helps me in my patience with dealing with people when we go on the street corners and teach the Bible, right? So it's a lot that I want to say, but going back to the example that Azrael brought out, man, like I said, when we play games and stuff and practice and stuff, it could be easy for me to call all the plays, offensively and defensively, and we win the game, 150-0. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying it will work like that because you also have to respect the other coaches on the sideline. But that's the thing, again, things do kind of look out of order sometimes when children are at the forefront of it, when your animals are at the forefront of it, right? If you're being controlled by your dog, right, because you're just choosing this as an opportunity to let them roam around and you're not really dictating their movement, people will probably be staring in their window or watching you walk down the street and they'll be like, he just doesn't know what he's doing. They just don't know what they're doing. But it's gonna look like that sometimes. And that's necessary though, because at the end of the day, we understand the assignment. It's not meant for everybody to understand. That's why Christ said, he speaks to people in parables. Because if it was meant for everybody to understand, he wouldn't have to. But it's not. So sometimes it does look kind of crazy when you letting dogs do the little foolish stuff they do. They start sitting down, licking their butt in the middle of the sidewalk, and you just standing there letting them do it. Like, to some people, that's just like, man, control your animal. You know what I'm saying? But to us, it's just like you got to let your animal be your animal sometimes. And I know that's just kind of like the same point. It's generally the same point I made earlier, but it just is so much. It's like in my head, it's just like that's the only way you can really get the best out of the people of God is sometimes you got to understand that people have certain characteristics that they're going to display, and our job ain't to just like we say just completely change them. It's for us to plant the seed, and the Lord is going to water that seed, and through the Lord watering that seed, there's going to be changes made, right? But that's going to come with kind of letting them walk off after they plant the seed. Because I'll end with this: if it was a situation where we wanted to control everything, we wouldn't tell people after a certain period of time, okay, well, look, follow us on Instagram, check us out, come back and see us if you got more questions. We would sit there and go through the whole Bible with everybody that we've ever encountered. And that would take a long time, right? Just to give somebody that much information right there out the gate, it would take an entirely long time. And you may not remember, you may not, call everything to mind when you need it. So you just got to know when, like you say, know when to just let the leash go, let them run a little bit, and you got to know when to grab it and be like, ho, But
Yeah.
Right.
kind of you. I'm sorry.
Salaki, you got to let people be people, man. And
Yeah.
some people, they learn different ways. Some people, they need to ask questions. I know a lot of people in the truth. Once we get the truth, we don't want nobody to ask us no questions. We want to just teach them. Stop asking questions. Am I the teacher or are you the teacher? And you got to let people ask questions, brother, because that's human nature. That's what questions pop up in our head and they need to be answered for us to fully understand sometimes. And sometimes, even in marriages, women don't feel like they can ask questions, right? Sometimes when we're on the street corners, evangelizers, they don't feel like they can ask questions. Sometimes people in the Christian church, when they sitting and watching them sermons on Sunday, they feel like they can't ask questions. It's in our nature to, and it's very controlling when you tell somebody to not ask questions or just listen, or you got to let them be them. And sometimes you got to let them go. Like the brother Isaiah said, it's up to them after they get the truth, whether they going to stay around or not. It's not up to us. We just here to guide.
Yeah, man, you gotta understand that just like the Bible tells us that we're all different parts of the body, right? We're all different in our own sense, right? Yes, there's certain things that we take heed to, but you can't control somebody. And a lot of people control people in these organizations, congregations, camps, whatever, to where everybody wants to be a robot. Everybody wants to sound like one person. Everybody wants to do like one person. But that's how you get people to exit the truth or not be in it for the right reasons, because we're not all meant to be the same, right? We're all meant to add to this thing in our own special ways, but you cannot do that if you're going about it leading in a controllable manner and not letting people to flourish on their own, right? Go ahead, brother O, before we get this precept.
Yeah, I remember that one time. Was y'all with us when we went to the fair that one time in Tallahassee, and we came across some brothers in the truth, and we like, I knew all of y'all was there. I think y'all was with us. Was that the day that their brother called y'all said baby fringes?
That was in Perry.
That was in
Oh,
Perry for sure.
oh. We went to the fair in Tallahassee. I think y'all was with us. The fair in Tallahassee.
Bro,
I ain't never been to the fan challenge.
you probably talking about the Perry Fair.
Oh, it might have been Perry. Oh, it was Perry Fair. It was Perry Fair. Yeah. It was Perry Fair. And we went to the brothers, and they were kind of looking at us like, y'all, like they were looking at us kind of crazy. I'm like, dang, what going on? But they were younger brothers, so they more likely got that from the older brothers that they've been around, man.
Yeah.
I was going. I had a point I was going with that, but I can't remember what I was finna. What the point of me bringing it up was.
I mean, same thing for what you just brought up. You gotta understand that will have you looking at other people different, not realizing that everybody is different out here, and that you can still love on your brothers and sisters, even if they might be different than you, right? Even if they might speak a little bit different than you, dress a little bit different than you. You know what I'm saying? Just knowing that they know who they are, and that we got to keep these laws, statutes, commandments should brighten up your day, right? Because this is Ephesians 5:25. We got two more precepts. This one and another one will be out of here.
Ephesians 5:25. Husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it.
Right. So the last trait I have down, man, we talked about serving, we talked about leading without being controlling, and then this one is uh, being accountable for the people that you look after, right? Taking responsibility for the people that you look after, just like Christ did, right? To the point where it came to protection, right? He gave his life for the people, right? What did Caiaphas say? You foolish people, you don't know that it was said that one person should die so the whole nation perish not. He took accountability for something that he didn't have to because he was sinless, but he took accountability for our sins and he died on the cross for it, right? Same thing you got to do for the people that's underneath you. Sometimes, the police pull up and you the leader of the congregation or whatever, bro. You know, somebody in your camp might have threw something at a car when you wasn't looking, but hey, the police pull up, man, you should try to take that L for your congregation because they probably just don't know better, right? And it's your people that you're trying to protect. You know what I'm saying? I got one last precept. Let's go to, in closing, we're gonna go to Luke. You know, I love ending with the words of Christ. So that's what we're gonna do today. Luke 16:10, red letter.
And this is Luke 16:10. And it reads, he that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much. And he that is unjust in the least is unjust also in much.
Right, man. If you're faithful in a little bit, man, you'll be faithful in a lot. So look at yourself in the mirror, man. The little that you do have, are you faithful with those things? Are you a good steward of those things, right? Whether it be animals or materialistic things, you take care of those things, right? Or you care less. He that is unjust in the least is unjust in much. If you're unjust with leading your little league football team, or if you're unjust in leading your dog, you're unjust in dealing with your wife and your kids, right? If you're unjust in that and in the little stuff, you be unjust if you get a big congregation, right? People always say this thing is a little off topic, but people always say, man, money doesn't change you, it just brings out the person that was always in you. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing with leadership, man. Leadership doesn't change you, right? Clout doesn't change you, it just brings out whoever was in whoever that was in your vessel beforehand. That's why David was such a good king, because from the jump he was a good person internally, right? But that's all I got today, man. Any brothers got anything else?
Good lesson, man. A lot of good
Points.
watch the flock precepts in this.
Hey, man. I just want to add too, yeah, like the title says, they will starve if you don't do this, right? We just got to make sure that we properly feeding the sheep. Everybody can see I properly feed myself, but there's always tactics I think about like throughout the week. How can I better feed the sheep of God? You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, man, I eat good, but I want the sheep of God to eat good too. And that's not just on the street corners too. That's even at my job, at my workplace. How can I be a better hireling? Because at the end of the day, it helps feed the sheep of God when I'm a good hireling. How can I be a better brother? How can I be a better husband and father? The last thing I always think about is how can I be a better coach, because that's what I do in the pastime. But those are all aspects of life that I think about, like where it's really a situation of Matthew 4:4, man shall not live by bread alone. So to give them this spiritual food is important just as much as we feed ourselves physically and spiritually. But with that being said, Marios.
Mighty point. I wanted two things to point out, man. One, I want to say shalom and shout out to the brother Baruch in the chat, man. He was with us today in the spirit, scribing for us. If you missed any of the precepts, man, if you can get a hold of the chat, they'll be in the chat. Two, I did make brother Obadiah repeat his point, and I forgot to address it, man. So I'll address it really quick. Your point was about how his patience as a herdsman translated to him dealing with Saul. And I wanted to point out the fact that a lot of times that when we dealing with people like Saul, David can understand that, man, I'm dealing with the babe right now. I'm dealing with the docile sheep right now. He's throwing a tantrum. He's doing all this, but I ain't going to kill him. I'm going to take care of him. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to tell other people to take care of him too. A lot of times when you have a herd of sheep, you always got one or two hard-headed ones, right? And they make you want to wring their neck out. Trust me, right? You make you want to hit them and all of that, but you got to understand that, hey, man, not everything in life is going to be perfect. There's always going to be that one, and you got to treat that one like the rest, right? As a leader, that's your responsibility. The Most High has to do it with us. He has a lot of good kids, but he also got one or two evil niggas running around. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes he loves on them and shows them mercy as well, right? So you got to be the same way. But that's all I got, man. I hope you guys were edified through that, encouraged through this, and hopefully you guys know that the Most High Son said what? If you ain't gathering, you're scattering, right? And a good way to get your practice in on helping to gather, man, is being faithful in little things, right? And taking care of the beast that you got, man. Building up those characteristics, man. We'll see you guys next time. Say Shabbat Shalom. Hope you have a good Sabbath of reset, and we'll see you guys next time. Shalom, shalom, and shalom.